It's good to see you guys. I like this. I like being here with you guys. It is the second Sunday in February, and it is a couple days before Valentine's Day. That means two things. It usually means I'm speaking, because it's the second week, and the topic is going to be love, because it's Valentine's Day. I remember I've been doing this since the fellowship, going all the way back to when we were in the studio. That we were getting to do. I was getting to talk on this day, so I enjoy it. And so what we're going to use this morning is a familiar portion of the Bible to talk about love, and hopefully get some more inspiration from it, more insights from it. And the part of the Bible we're going to look at is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is sometimes called the love chapter. And I'll read it for you. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophecy is imperfect. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall understand fully, even as I have been fully understood. So faith, hope, love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Chapter 13 follows chapter 12, appropriately. And in chapter 12, Paul is talking to the Corinthians about some of the problems that they are having in their fellowship, in the church in Corinth. And I think that's one of the things that I like about the Bible, or draw from the Bible. It's a lot of stories are written about human beings being human in all their dysfunctionality. And in this case, it's the same way. Many of Paul's letters that turn into books of the Bible are written because somebody was having a problem. Some church, some person was having a problem learning how to live. And Paul was trying to address the problem and trying to help him get through whatever it was. So in this case, again, Paul is addressing the problems that the church of Corinth is having. And it's interesting that in this Bible and in all this humanness, God is found. God is found. God is the originator of all these human beings in all their humanness. And also God is the power that allows us to move beyond that, to transcend that at times, and learn how to be maybe different than we've been in the past. The problem that the people in the church in Corinth are having is the issue of a pecking order. All these people are in the church. They're bringing their gifts, they're bringing their talents to the church to make it work, to get things done. Some are setting up the tables to serve. Some are doing other administrative duties. Some are prophesying. Some are speaking in tongues. And all these people are saying, which one of us is the most important? Which one of us counts the most to God? Which one of us is the one that really, I think I didn't turn this on. Oh, is it? Okay. Good job, John. Which one of us is the most important? And the person, of course, the person saying, well, I speak in tongues, so I'm probably a little more spiritual than everybody else, and need to be regarded as being more important than somebody that just waits tables or does something like that. And then there's somebody else that says, well, I prophesy, and so I should be the most important. It's interesting, prophecy, the gift of prophecy, or the practice of prophesying. It is basically someone is inspired directly by God to say something, provide a message to the church that they claim is directly from God. And prophesying is a team sport. There is the prophet who gets it into his head that said, God told me to say something, and I need to say this to these people. And so he comes to the church, and he brings his message, the prophecy that he believes is from God. And the church says, yes, no, yeah, They interpret, then they look at it and say, does it really meet the criteria of a message from God? Because it's not just automatically, oh, well, if you're a prophet, then we have to listen. The church listens. And sometimes the church will ignore it because it's, like I say, it just doesn't meet the criteria. Sometimes it meets the criteria and the church wants to ignore it because it's meddling. It's starting to step on toes and deal with things that the church would rather not deal with. And so the gift of prophecy is one of those that they have. So all the people were coming together with all their gifts, and they were vying for recognition in the church. And it's interesting to see that God has, in fact, gifted these people, as God has gifted us. God has gifted these people to create a church, to create a fellowship, to bring the skills, the talents, the abilities that they have, and create a fellowship, a body of people that worship together, celebrate together, and enjoy each other together. And it's interesting that God doesn't wait for us to be saints to gift us with those things. If he did, there's not many of us that would be busy. It would be pretty slow day. We'd have to look pretty far to find where's that one saint that's out there, with his gift. God doesn't wait for us to be saints to bring these gifts. So Paul's trying to help these people sort out their pecking order. Paul's trying to help them understand what their gifts are and what the truth is behind all these gifts. So he starts to try to give a relative, okay, well, you do this, so that really, I guess you're the hand of the body of the church, and you do that, so you're probably the eye, and now the eye, you're going to say you're more important than the hand, of course, because you see everything. The hand, you got to have, and Paul's trying to really bring them back down to earth and say, listen, that's all fine and dandy. All these concerns about your gifts are all fine and dandy. But the biggest thing, the most important thing to learn is that love. A more excellent way is that if we don't love, none of these gifts mean much at all. And so he goes on to talk to them. Being a seminary student, I get to learn all kinds of new stuff. This chapter 13 is referred to as an encomium. An encomium. Again, it's the first time I've learned the word too, but so I look pretty impressive. An encomium is basically a rhetorical device used in ancient times to give praise to a person or to a virtue. And so as I read in the book earlier, the way the whole thing flowed is a pattern. It is an outline. And the Corinthians would have recognized that. They would say, oh yeah, okay, kind of like a haiku. If you read a haiku, you say, oh yeah, I know it's supposed to have this many lines, and then this many lines, and then this many lines. That's a haiku, okay. So they would have said, oh, Paul, you wrote an encomium. So that's, and there are two things that happen with it. First, reference is made to actions as a clue to character. So he describes love in terms of what the actions that are involved in it, and then it finishes by comparing and contrasting that virtue with other virtues and trying to give it where it fits on the scale. So Paul starts out by quieting all this rancor, all these people yelling about whose gift is more important. And he brings it down right away to quiet that rancor and bring their focus down. He says, if I speak in the tongue of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. It doesn't matter how talented I am. If I'm getting up to share something, or I'm interacting with somebody and sharing different things with them, if I'm not sharing from a place of love, if I'm not, first of all, we're going to see it. Have you been with people that have shared and you thought, oh wow, really impressive, but there was just that something missing, and it just didn't quite get through, didn't quite hit the nail on the head, and oftentimes there is that lack of just love. Instead of how good can I do this, it's like, how can I share this with them? How can I make this real? You guys, Hillary and Steve, you guys, when you come, you give us the best of both. Wonderful talent and hearts that share love. We really enjoy that. And Ken, congratulations on finding people like that over and over again. That's really neat. So Paul says love is more important than how well you're talking, and love is more important than what you're delivering. Paul, and then back at the Unity of Fort Worth, when we were in the choir, Melinda used to run us through you got to make sure you hit every note and every little pause and everything. She was just exacting about how you were going to sing and how you were going to bring this part and make sure that it was a perfect performance. And then, 10 minutes before you were going on stage, she'd stop and she'd say, okay, everybody close your eyes and say, where from inside are you going to share this? You've got all the things in place. You've got all the things. It's going to be an impressive show. Now, go inside. Share from that place of love. Share from that place of love. And always, it just made a great deal of difference. Paul goes on to say, if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. That's quite an indictment. If I have prophetic powers, if God actually gives me a message to share with other people, but I don't have love, I am nothing. It is not counted to me as anything special. And I think in this case, with prophetic, and to understand all mysteries, I mean, can you imagine having the ability to articulate mystery and make it come alive for someone in a way. And he says, but if I don't do that from love, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. And I think in that situation, when I look at that, it's more an inside thing. It's like, because I'm sharing a prophecy, or I'm sharing whatever it is, my talent, gift, whatever. And if I'm not loving, it's me that senses that sense of nothingness inside, that emptiness inside, because there's just something missing. There's just not all what it could be. And Paul says, if I give away all that I have to the poor, and if I deliver my body to be burned because of my faith, but have not love, I gain nothing. In the early church, the Romans created a bunch of martyrs. They killed a lot of Christians, and because of their beliefs. It's interesting that the Romans called the Christians atheists. Called the Christians atheists because they didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in the Roman God, and so they were considered atheists. So anyway, they created these martyrs. And it's interesting in the study that there were a lot of people at that time that wanted to be martyrs. They wanted that ticket, if you will, that moniker of martyr, because it was seen, first of all, as being something very glamorous in the community. And they thought, if I'm going to impress God, this is the way to impress God. And my ticket is punched once I do this. And what Paul is saying is, even if you do that, Even if you give yourself up to be a martyr, if you don't have love, you don't gain anything. If you're not doing it in love. So when the Romans come by, don't raise your hand and tell them, I'm the one, I'm the one. Again, if I do all this and I don't have love, then I don't gain anything. I don't gain anything. In the next section of the chapter, Paul starts describing love in different adjectives. And it's interesting to note that love is not a gift. Love is not considered a gift. It is considered a way of being. We are love. We don't just give love. We don't just pour out love. We do that, but we don't just do. We do it because we are love. It is our way of being. It is just our way of being. We can't help it. It's how we are created. And the first paragraph this next paragraph is probably the most well-known. We hear it read quite often at weddings and different events like that. I know I use it a lot when I'm doing a wedding. And so he starts off by saying, love is patient, love is kind. And what's interesting is that the description that he uses, all the definition, when he tries to get a definition, trying to get a picture of what is this thing? What is this love? He uses as many things to say love is as he does to say love is not. So it's kind of an elusive description, definition to get to. It's kind of, well, it's not this. Yeah, it is this, yeah, but it's not that. And so trying to it can be kind of a rather nebulous thing to try to grasp and to bring in. Patient and kind. I've talked about that at different times before, so what I'd like to just talk about quickly is that love is kind. Love is kind. I like that word kind. There is power in the word kind. It means I know who you are. There's no delusions here. I know who you are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I know it all. And I love you. And I love you. It's the antithesis, I think, of niceness. Niceness says, oh, everything's just wonderful. Everything is just wonderful. And it puts on the rose-colored glasses so that it can't see reality. And that's nice. And there's no power in that. Because I can't love when I'm being nice. Because I'm having to avoid reality. I'm having to avoid the truth. And so there's no power when I'm trying to just be nice. But when I'm being kind, I realize God is big enough, life is big enough to have all these imperfections as a part of it and still thrive and still be the joyous occasion that is designed to be. That is kindness. That is kindness. And that's how the divine relates to us as well. Yep, I know it all, and I love you, and I love you. And that is the power of love. That is the power of love. The next line probably has the biggest challenge for me that I see in this. It says, love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. That's vulnerable. That's vulnerable. When I can stand in front of somebody, stand in front of people, and not have to pretend I'm more or less than I am, or make sure that I note how much more or how much less I am than that person, but be in oneness with them, that can be a scary feeling. That is a feeling of vulnerability for me. Just the idea of coming together and talking, and usually with family, closest family, it's maybe even a little more difficult. Yeah, I went on vacation last year. We had a 7-day cruise. Oh, wow, I had a 10-day cruise. Okay. Well, I graduated from UT. Well, I went to a private school. Just saying. And so there's this one-upsmanship, and it's all born of this fact that I'm afraid of being one. I'm afraid of just being one and sharing time, sharing space with each of you, because I don't realize that God is the center of all that. And so I'm looking for some way to make sure I'm not going to get hurt, I'm not going to be outdone, or that I'm going to be, again, trying to get over that vulnerability. And it frees when I can be not jealous or boastful, not arrogant or rude. It frees conversation. It frees conversation because it takes away that piece of competition, and it lets me actually talk. It lets me actually fellowship with others. And that can be that can be a challenge. But what a gift! What a gift! And that is the power. That is the love that we are. Is that it allows us to do that. It allows us to do that. When I go inside and I maintain and foster that awareness of my oneness with the divine and the fact that I am love, it allows me to do that, to come in and be in that type of conversation. The other line I like also, love is not irritable or resentful. It does not insist on its own way. Irritability is a sure sign that I have an agenda, and I have a time limit on my agenda. When I'm irritable, it's like, okay, that's what's going on. It doesn't matter what the other person is doing. It doesn't matter what. If I'm getting irritated, that's what's going on. I have an agenda, and where it really gets to me is when you're in the left turn lane and you got a really fast green arrow, and there's two guys in front of you, and they pull out, and they're not paying attention, so they pull out slow, and then they race through the yellow, and they leave you sitting at the, that's when I recognize I'm irritable. But it's irritability is that lack of, I'm wandering away from love, okay? I'm wandering away from love. Resentfulness, irritability means I have an agenda and things are not going the way I want them to right now. Resentfulness means I have had an agenda and things have not gone the way I wanted them to in the past. And I'm hanging on for dear life to the hurt from that messing up of my agenda. I'm going to remind myself over and over again that that person did exactly what that person did to mess up my agenda, and I have every right to be angry. And so we rehash and we rehash and we rehash. The truth is that love gives us the power to let that go. Love gives us the power to let that go. Yes, and it may have been a major agenda. It may have been something that we deserved and we should have had and all. But the truth is, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. And so love lets us, and the word forgiveness comes from this. When I first heard the word forgiveness, I thought, oh, that's a churchy word. But then I looked up the definition of it, and I realized that what it means is the definition of forgiveness is to let go of resentments, to let go, stop re-feeling it. It doesn't mean I give you absolution. It doesn't mean you're okay. Now you're going to heaven. I forgive you. That's not what it is. It means I'm going to stop rehashing and rehashing that pain that I felt 10, 20 years ago because I just don't have to anymore. And then in the last part, in the last part, Paul starts comparing the gifts. Paul compares the other gifts to the people of Corinth were arguing about. He wanted to make it very clear that they were prizing what was not the ultimate goal. Previously, he suggested that if they had the gifts but did not have love, they had lost out on the best. Now, he makes the point even clearer. He says, love never ends. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophecy is imperfect. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. And I think he does a really neat job of helping them let go of this prizing of these gifts. He doesn't say, listen, folks, it's bad to want to hold on to these gifts as your measurement stand. You know, it's just it's a sinful thing to do. You know, it's a wrong thing. What he says is, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Love is the only thing that's going to last. This gift of prophecy has a life. He gives mortality to those gifts and says, if you're hanging on to those and thinking they're gonna carry you, they're not. So focus on love. Let love be your focus. Then the second to the last line I like. He says, now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. That is a neat meditation, to go into stillness and I am fully known. I am fully known. Two things come from that. First of all, God knows who I am. I am fully known. God knows who I am. I was created on purpose. And not an accident, not an afterthought, whatever. God knows who I am. And the second one is, God knows fully who I am. I don't have to hide. I don't have to hide and say, again, God doesn't look at me nicely. God looks at me with kindness. He knows all that's there and says, I love you. And then he finishes by pointing out that faith, hope, and love, these three abide, but the greatest of these is love. And in conclusion, love then is a powerful way of being. It is who we are. We don't just give love, we are love. Love is what makes the gifts we bring have power to share. Love is what lets us come together as one in relationship, in conversation, rather than in competition. Love is what lets us release the demand for our way, either now or in the past. Love is who we are, and love never ends.